success versus significance, because they are not enemies. They're not enemies. Both have their value. Both of them have value. So when we're thinking success, significance, because initially people just started saying significance, significance, and all that. But I want you to think about it this way, which is what I've processed over time in my life. Success is actually the foundation for significance. It's, if you will, the doorway to which you get to significance. All of my guests, for example, all of the guests we're going to be having all through the week, they started from somewhere and they expanded. You know, when we have this idea of you shift, you're not going to pack up success and then you just go into significance. You expand on it, you build on it. You know, my guests, all of them, we all know them and we'll be talking about them a bit more. They started from somewhere and they began to build on success. So we're not demonizing success at all. In fact, as I said, success is the foundation. It's a doorway. I think of Tony Elumelu. I was trying to think, of people that we know. He's a business leader, significant investor across Africa. After he serves, I believe right now as the chairman of UBA still. Then he expanded that success and started his Tony Elumelu Foundation. For those of us who are people of faith, I remember Queen Esther in the Bible. Queen Esther went for a beauty pageant. She was first of all queen. She was queen for a while. That was her office. She was queen. But eventually, her role was to be a deliverer of her people, to preserve her people. That was moving from success, beauty, queen, to a role of significance. So this whole summit is not about, oh, success is not good. It's all about significance. It is not so. Success helps build capacity. It builds credibility. Why would you want to listen to any of us today if you haven't heard or seen something? Success gives you influence, at least on a level, and it gives you a platform. Now, I think what then happens is, for a lot of people, some people never get there. After a while, some people will just, they stay on the level of success, because really, what is there not to like about success? You have the big titles, professor, doctor, engineer, lawyer. You have the big houses, you have the big cars, you are climbing the money mountain. So people sometimes they just park there. They park there and it's like, I'm good. What else? What else am I looking for? But for a lot of people, what happens is, after building success, they begin to ask this question: what is this platform I have really for? What is it really about? And that is when you begin to see people, just getting restless and wanting more. So today we're going to be looking at success and significance. Success is not meant to be an end in itself. It's supposed to be a means to an end. I always, when I'm thinking of this topic, I remember Abraham Maslow. We all know they have Maslow's hierarchy of needs. He started talking about what motivates the human being. And he introduced us to this hierarchy of needs. At first, he believed that the highest level of human fulfillment was what? Self-actualization, where you succeed. Whatever vision, whatever goals you've set, you achieve. Then later on in life, Maslow realized that a lot of people get to that space and they're still not fulfilled. He realized that People will get to self-actualization and they're still searching. Then Maslow's introduced another level to the hierarchy of needs. Self-transcendence, he called it, where you're moving beyond yourself and then you're thinking of how to contribute to the lives of other people. So that is what we're going to be looking at. We're going to be looking at success. All my guests will share how they achieved success and how they are expanding success to now, include significance. So I want to quickly share. All of them will be. Where is it? Okay, let me just go here. Show my. Can we? Oops. Can you see my screen? No. Can you see my screen?
No.
No. Okay. Sorry. I'm going to. Okay. Let me just. Sorry, I need to just stop sharing for a minute. Uh, where is this? I need to stop sharing. Oh gosh. Okay, I'm just going to share. Can we see it now? Can you?
Yes.
You can. All right. So just a very quick thing I'd like to show. My guests we have 5 days, and they're going to be looking at different, from their own different lenses. They're going to be looking at their story from success to significance. Today, we're looking at expansion. Otto will be taking us through how, he's moved from maybe just helping individuals and all that to systems, looking at significance through systems and service. Tomorrow, we would hear from Audrey Ezigbo, where she would tell us how, she moved from just success expanding to significance, where her life experiences probably reshaped, it was able to reshape her definition of success. On my day, which is Wednesday, I will be looking at success and how it aligns with purpose. Mrs. Zacchaeus will be looking at significance and building beyond yourself. And then we have Udo Konjo, who will be looking at generational wealth, generational impact, and how we can all benefit from. So it's going to be a beautiful, lovely, lovely time. So without further ado, I'm going to go into the chat for today. Are we all ready? Otto, are you there? Otto, can I see you?
I am here.
You're
Excited,
there. I'm
excited to be
so glad
here.
to have you. Oh yeah, that's Otto. Otto, how are you? How are
I'm
you
very fine,
doing?
thank you.
Mhm.
Excited to be here. And I mean, all you have shared are very, very significant. So I think that's the beginning of significance, just
Absolutely.
listening to you.
Thank you.
And thank you very much for this honorable invitation. I really am excited to be here.
It's awesome to have you here. I will just introduce you very briefly. Otto is the founder of Slum2School Africa, a global education advocate and visionary, a social entrepreneur whose work has impacted hundreds of thousands of children across underserved communities. I've known you for a number of years, Otto. Yeah, and you're someone that I have a lot of respect for. We actually have, we share quite a bit of interests. You're a reformer, an education reformer. We actually serve on several boards together. We actually also co-founded an organization called AfriTeach. And I dare say we're both alumni of Harvard Kennedy School.
That's very true.
Yeah. So we do have a lot of interest. Now, Otto, to get you ready, everybody, please get your cup of tea, coffee, whatever, and let's get into this. To make sure Otto is ready for us, I'm going to give just some quick fire questions, right? Yes or no answer. Otto, no explanation. Don't do the education speech thing for me.
It all depends. Context is very important,
Don't worry.
right? Guys, are we
I
are we
have
are
the
we are we
mic.
together?
I have the mic. I have the mic.
Okay,
So, Otto, do you prefer to work alone or work with a team?
with a team.
Okay, I think so. Yeah.
With a
Are you a
team.
big picture person or
Big
detail?
picture.
Big
Both.
picture.
Both. But I mean, I pay attention to details, A to
Yes,
D. That's what I always tell my team, attention to details. So it's good
attention
to
to
have
the.
a big picture, but always pay attention to the details because, I
Oh.
mean, everything, the devil is in detail, like we say.
Mm-hmm. I think I identify with that as well. I'm a big picture person, but whatever interests me, I would be so involved in the detail and just having
Correct.
that eye for detail. So, multitasking or focusing on one thing at a time.
Multitasking.
Okay.
I
Are you
let my I let my colleagues focus on the individual tasks, but I have my head in multiple places.
multiple things? Okay, great. Are you an optimist or a realist?
Optimists. I mean,
I think so.
a
It's
wild optimist.
die hard.
Hmm.
Also, when we start those discussions, I'm like, this guy is going
Unapologetic.
to change this world.
Yeah.
All right. Do you prefer meetings or sending emails? Do you like to meet with people, or you know what? I just send the email and
It depends on the person.
hmm. But what
Sometimes
do
I
you
want
think to us?
some
I think you are more
sometimes
of a meeting because you don't respond to messages quickly.
I love meetings because there's I mean over 70% or is it 80 or 90% of communication is informal, right? Body
Mm-hmm.
language. And so when you're having those in-person meetings, there are lots of nuances and unspoken words that you would
After that, you
probably,
can actually,
yeah. So I
yeah,
love meetings. I love
yeah,
having those in-person conversations.
yeah.
And then you build on that with emails.
Okay, cool. Just two more. So be very honest. When was the last time, Otto, that you truly switched off and did nothing?
I haven't done that in a long time.
I know that.
I haven't done that in a very long time. I think that, I mean, the closest time that I would say I really felt like I wanted to take a break was when I went to Harvard. I had worked for over
Mm,
10 years and I was like, I need to take a break. I wanted
mm,
something that was just not going to feel like work, right? And I
mm,
took a break and
mm,
that break was going to school. So in
mm.
terms of just switching off, I feel like I'll fall sick the day I try to. But I'm learning. I'm now learning to take breaks. I mean, in
So
between the work I
important.
do. And I think what really matters is to do work that doesn't feel like work. So every day
Mm,
feels like a vacation. Every day feels like, you're having a good time. When
mm.
work feels like work, when you wake up on a Monday morning and it feels like you're
A
going,
chore.
yeah, I mean, then that's where you need to take a break.
Yeah.
And
But
so
you
for
see,
me,
yes. Go ahead.
yeah,
Go
and
ahead.
for me, it's been really just making every day feel like a vacation, every day feel
Mm,
like. So I jump into, whatever I'm doing. Slum2School doesn't feel like work to me,
mm,
right? Working in communities, building schools, supporting children.
mm.
I mean, I love to see the progress. I love to see the transformation, and that is not work, but it feels as work. So
So you are so correct, but I think that that's also where the danger lies for most of us that are very passionate about what we do. We don't know when to stop sometimes. We don't know when to create that white space, the
Correct.
margin, So it's so important. But thank you for your honesty. And I love the comments in the chat. People are telling us their own answers to this. Beautiful. I love that. So, final question, Otto. One thing that significance has cost you, and one thing that you have gained from significance, understanding significance and walking in on that level. What has it cost you? And what would you say you have gained from that? And that's my last.
I wouldn't really say it's been negative.
Mhm.
I mean, it gives you a voice, and that voice is very important.
Beautiful,
You are,
beautiful.
I mean, I have the opportunity right now to speak on behalf of several people who would not have had a voice.
Mm,
And I think that that is an opportunity that can be traded for anything. And so amidst all the possible downsides that could have created,
mm,
lack of certain kinds of privacy and all of that. I believe that the
mm,
opportunities are more because you could walk into rooms, you could make calls, you could speak to leaders, and that opens doors that wouldn't have been opened in so many ways. I remember a state where a lady, I won't call her a lady, she was a young teenager, and she
mm,
met me, very brilliant, super incredible learner
mm,
who, I mean, we call them scholars now, who are in university. And she had
mm,
just gotten all A's in school
mm,
in in Hawaii. And this was a talent that you could see. And she really couldn't go to the university. And I could see that this lady was, or this girl was at in between, she was at a crossroad between
mm,
phases of her life. And I placed a call to one of the vice chancellors of a university, and she got a full scholarship. So when you think of that privilege, that opportunity, God
mm.
gives you a platform because, I always say this to my team and even to my mom, because my mom is always like, yeah, be cautious. There are lots of horrible people on the wall. You know how mothers are. And I tell her that, I mean, I say to my team that we are like taps.
Mm,
The moment you turn off the tap, the water becomes
mm.
rusty. The inner pipes become rusty and you
Absolutely.
gradually
Not
start to
flowing.
lose your worth.
Yeah.
And
Mm,
so we are channels. God has given us opportunities to be channels of change, channels of, and the moment you think about it as this is for me, it's not for
mm,
you. The water that passes through is not for
mm,
you. You're
mm,
just a channel, and you need to realize that that is a platform that you've been given to
mm.
continuously improve the life of others and the community that you find yourself.
I love that. I love that. So it gives you a voice, even though there might be a bit of lack of privacy, but you have a voice, and that makes it all worth it. So that's just beautiful. Okay, then, Otto, we're going to go into the session where you're just going to tell us a bit more about yourself. I'm so curious. I hope you're there. I'm so curious. I really want to know your story. Sometimes I wonder how did you get here? Because first of all, a lot of people won't even come into the education space. A lot of men won't even come into the education space. And then what you do in education, you've actually even gone beyond, charity, children. You're actually into
Correct.
systems change and all
That's
that.
true.
So I am honestly really excited to hear a little bit more about your story. I'm just going to let you tell your story, your journey so far, and then I would follow up with some questions. So over to you, Otto.
Yeah, I mean, it's my story is one that has been told many
Um,
times.
okay, so we can't see you anymore. Is that if
Can you see me?
no, no, no. Okay, we can see you now.
Yeah, I'm currently okay. So my story is one that I believe is I've shared several times on several occasions as well. And
Mm,
I think it's been a journey of what you just called success to significance.
Mm-hmm.
I I believe that we are all on that path. I
Mm-hmm.
call, there's a framework that I love to use, and I created that framework for nations, right? How nations move from success to significance, but it also has five S's, right?
Mm.
And the five S's are survival, stability, sovereignty, sophistication, and supremacy, right? And it takes
Can
us
you
through
repeat that, please? Sovereignty, survival, stability, sovereignty.
survival, right? Survival is like the first thing. And I think this is also very applicable to individuals,
Mm-hmm.
even not just for nations, but
Yeah.
in the context of national evolution, it's more structural, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because
Absolutely.
you're looking at GDP, you're looking at GDP per capita, you're looking at several economic indicators, looking
Mm-hmm.
at how a nation can evolve from a state of what we call survival to a state of supremacy. And so
Mm.
I believe that that framework is very much applicable to individuals as well. And so,
Otto,
you know,
so
the
sorry to stop you. You said survival, stability, sovereignty. I'm missing something before.
survival,
Yep.
stability,
Yes.
sovereignty,
Yep.
sophistication, and
Sophistication,
supremacy.
supremacy. All right, please go ahead.
Yeah, so survival is when you're trying to stay alive. You're solving immediate needs.
Mm-hmm.
You're avoiding collapse. You're what we call living from hand to mouth.
Mm-hmm.
You're really just thinking about tomorrow. And when individuals or nations are trapped in this state of survival, you can't think about what you call legacy. You can't
Mm-hmm.
think about tomorrow. You can't think
Mm-hmm.
long term. And I say this because it's a state that I have seen a lot of nations, especially um, African nations and
Mm-hmm.
individuals. Let's bring this back to the individual level. We would deal with this because you're just surviving, families
Mm-hmm.
is surviving. When you go
Mm-hmm.
beyond survival, then you're looking at stability, right? This is when you get an opportunity to get a skill, to get a job. And that's why education plays a very important role because without education, you can't find stability
Mm-hmm.
structurally. People say education is a scam, but the moment you get literate, the moment you go to
Mm-hmm.
school, the moment went to primary school, that is education. Secondary school, that is
Absolutely.
education. You don't necessarily have to go to the tertiary university, and that's why I also speak about reforming the education system because that helps us understand that once you have basic education, which is supposed to be 15 years, you are made for life. And so
Mm-hmm.
stability happens when you get a great form of education. Your income becomes consistent, your career starts to progress, right? You have some level of order and predictability, and so you're in a stable situation. You're not so worried, but you're not there yet, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because many times you're just hanging on the balance. One little shock could take you back to a survival mode.
Mm-hmm.
And that is where success is, because at the point of stability,
Absolutely.
you feel successful. This is personal. One of the major differences between success and significance is that success is personal, significance is systemic, right? You're not just thinking about yourself, you're affecting the state of your environment, your community. And then we can go to sovereignty, which is the transition point between success and significance, right? Here, you're not just secure, you're independent, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're thinking for yourself. I think I would like the members of our audience to ask ourselves, where do you think Nigeria is, right? Are we at the survival, the stability, the sovereignty, the sophisticated, or rather sophistication or supremacy? But beyond Nigeria as a country, where do you think you are,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because this is about us as individuals. Where
Yes.
do you think you are? Are you
Survival, I can see a lot of survival, stability for some, Nigeria survival.
okay? I'll let you answer that because we're not discussing Nigeria today. But I
Exactly.
think it's important to think about this. Why are we in this room? Why are we having this conversation? What does this mean for me? Because if you're living in a nation that is at in a state of survival, like you have said,
Mm-hmm.
then there's a concern because you can't evolve way beyond way beyond your immediate environment. If you think you're in a state of stability, that is great in itself,
Mm.
right? And it means that one little shock, one little chaos, we could drop beyond that
Mm.
back to survival. And the question for every one of us in this room is, what will we do to change that reality? But
Mm.
let's take it back to ourselves as individuals.
Yes,
Where
and
are
I still
you?
want your story, Otto.
Yeah, I'm gonna get there. I was just trying to create this framework so it helps
Yeah,
us. And then sovereignty is very important.
yeah.
I mean, like we said, this is where you're no longer allowing others influence you. Other
Mm-hmm.
countries or other individuals are no longer influencing you on a personal level, right? You're
Mm.
thinking for yourself. You're defining your own standards. You're not
Mm-hmm.
outsourcing your identity. But
Mm.
then it gets to sophistication. This is where significance begin to take shape,
Mm.
right? Significance is when you're thinking systemically.
Mm-hmm.
You're thinking about the influence you want to have, the legacy you want to create. You're understanding complexity. You're building structures. You're
Yeah.
not asking, how do I win? You're asking, how do we win? How do we win? How do we change our system?
Mm.
And then supremacy is a place where I believe we all need to aspire to. If I ask you to list a few countries that are in a state of supremacy, I'm sure many of you would list those countries. And we can then plot a graph and see what made them supreme, how they
Mm.
got to that point, and learn how we can also get there. And the same thing could be applicable to us as individuals. How do we grow from a state of significance, from a state of success to significance? How can we go from a state of survivals to stability up to the point of supremacy?
Let's
And
see.
so when we look at this, I mean, growing up as a child, from what you would have read in my bio, I I mean I grew up in a family where significance was something my dad preached to us, right?
Mm.
We were made to know that we were not born just to succeed. We were not born just for ourselves. Showing up, waking up in the morning, you should ask yourself, how am I improving, my immediate environment? And
Mm.
so I grew up, my dad was a medical doctor. He was a military officer as well. He was in the army, and so it was. I mean, values were very important. We had very important values that discipline was an important value for us.
Mm.
Honesty, integrity, and
Mm.
so I mean, those were values that we grew up learning, and we got into school. I wanted to be a medical doctor. My dad wanted me to be a medical doctor. Like we all have parents who would have decided that this my son is going to be a lawyer or my daughter is going to be, an engineer, whatever it does. And so why did my dad feel that way? Because the traits he observed in me were traits of service. And as a
Mm.
young child, you really can only choose from a certain career options. And so he knew that I wanted to really create an impact. I wanted to heal people, right? At
Mm.
some point, I realized that healing was beyond people. It was probably systems.
Systems.
And so growing up, went to good primary schools, took up lots of leadership roles in primary schools. My dad would say, you have to lead. You are born to be a leader, not just to be a follower. So we had those values really imbibed in us. So primary school, secondary school, leadership roles throughout. In secondary school, I went to Nigerian Navy Secondary School, and I was almost going to be a military officer. In fact, I passed the exam. I've probably not spoken about this anywhere, but I did pass the exam. I took the exam, and for some reason, I told my dad I didn't think I wanted to go to the Nigerian Defense Academy, and
Mm.
he felt at some point, this I wouldn't say disappointed
A little
because
bit.
he's like, okay, but I think one of the things he gave us the opportunity to do was to make decisions for ourselves. And
Mm,
so that belief that when if something is broken, you don't just complain, you fix it. He had given us the opportunity to really build a disciplined life. So if I said I didn't want to do something, he could trust me. The same thing with my mom. And
mm,
so when I got into the university, my goal was to study medicine. And then I realized that I just did not like the sight of the dead bodies, the cadavers, the blood. I mean, till date, I still cringe. I still have some weird feeling just seeing an accident or seeing a cut or seeing.
mm,
And
mm,
so I realized that at that point, I just could not stand being in an emergency room or
mm,
dealing with. I mean, I loved the idea of healing people, of helping people, of transforming,
mm,
just watching to see things get better. And I found myself involved in lots of youth leadership, you know, organizations back in school.
mm,
I rarely talk about this, but one of the organizations that I know really did shape my early foundational years back in the university was ISEC, right?
mm,
ISEC is the world's largest student-run organization, AIESEC. And ISEC was, I joined ISEC in my first year, not even my first year. I did a pre-degree program, right, in the University of Port Harcourt. So I joined ISEC at a very young age. I was probably 16 or 17. And this was where I really built a lot of leadership skills, managing projects, raising funds, organizing
mm,
organizing events, traveling. I mean, I traveled to the point that my dad was also a lecturer, right? So he had a lot of professors in my university who he had taught, over the years. And so he was very close to many of them. And they would call him and say, your son is not in school, or I was probably in Ghana, I was probably in Kaduna, I was probably in Cote d'Ivoire or Cameroon, somewhere attending and leading a conference. And that's really shaped a lot of my foundational years. I had managed over a dozen projects while I was in school because this now gave me a life. I could see myself going into communities and really creating impact as a 17, 18, 19-year-old.
mm,
And that experience really shaped a lot of my journey. So when I found myself done with school, I had a global view. I was like, what am I going to do? I graduated. There were lots of opportunities to work. And then I went and studied French. I found myself traveling to West African countries, Senegal, Cote d'Ivoire. In fact, I lived in Cote d'Ivoire for about 4 years, 4 months, sorry, before the war was about to break out and we had to leave. Then I went to Cameroon. So this was a 20, 21-year-old young boy just
wow.
exploring the world. My mom would cry and scream and say, what is going on with her son? But those foundational moments were very important to me because they gave me the agency and the opportunity to become who I am today. When I
Mm,
got eventually decided I was going to come back and do my national youth service, and then afterwards go on with my global tour, I found myself in the NYC camp leading a number of the CDS groups. I was in the Red Cross. I was the president of the Red Cross in Lagos during my service year. So that started from camp. And then what we had called the MDG's CDS group. I was the class governor. And then something I had not shared so much, I was posted to a bank, Zenith Bank. And in the bank, we had over about 140 core members that they had come to carefully select from the NYC camp. I know things have changed
mm,
today, so I
mm,
don't think that process happens again. But then we were handpicked from the camp. So who they felt were some of the smartest core members.
mm,
And we were taken to training school in Victoria Island and trained for about 2 weeks. And somehow I was elected to be the class governor. Now I'm sharing all of this because I had built a community during my service here.
mm,
Over about two, three, four, 500 people who were very close to me. And I just came into Lagos without having a lot of my roots in Lagos. And so after I had encountered the stark deprivation of education in so many communities, as we were traveling to communities during the CDS program. I'm like, this is not right. I mean, I grew up in Port Harcourt and I never knew that children were not in school. My dad had
Mm,
emphasized the importance of education. So coming into a community and seeing that 250 children, 500 children are not in school, that was very abnormal to me. And so I
mm,
could not just imagine going into the office, sitting down and working when I had just seen 300 children in some community in Badagry and that community in Ekpe or in the community in Makoko. I was troubled.
mm,
And I woke up one morning on the 24th of February. I still remember this day so well, and told myself I'm going to resign. It was a Friday. I
mm.
hope that those dates are accurate. But it was a Friday,
It's all right.
right? Um, 24th February, I think this was 2012. And on Monday morning, I had written a letter that I was leaving. And as a class governor, you know, it was troubling. How can you, who leads an entire community of some of the best core members, you wake up and we were earning what was almost the minimum wage today, about
Mm,
15 years ago. So we were well paid. It was a prestigious opportunity, but I'm like, I need to leave. I need to leave. I was not able to focus on the job anymore. And that was how I went into Makoko community in 2011, 2012, and mobilized the friends that I had,
the
the network,
community.
people, the
Yeah,
community that I
great.
had. We raised funds, renovated the public schools, enrolled 114 children who had never been to school, and got them into school for the very first time. And that was how Slum2School's journey began. Today,
Beautiful.
we have about 60 of those kids and a number of others who are in the university, thousands across primary schools, across secondary schools. In fact, we've impacted over 700,000 children
Wow.
through the work we have done. And when I look back, it's just tells me how simple moments and simple decisions can
Mm,
transform the lives of people who you just can't imagine. And what is most inspiring or what is most significant about the work that I think we have done is not just about me. I can
mm,
I can list almost 30, 40, and 50 organizations that had been birthed by
mm,
people who were inspired by that journey, by those decisions, by those success stories, and seeing the multiplier effect, the ripple effect of even our learners who are driving change. For example, in the Makoko community today, let me give you a practical example. We all are aware of the demolitions that had happened throughout the last couple of weeks, sorry,
mm,
couple of months. It started in December into January. And when everything happened, there was a lot of agitation. People wanted me to speak. People wanted us as an organization to speak. And I'm like, we are not a community.
mm,
In Makoko alone, we've provided scholarships for over 4,000 children till date.
mm,
We have over 50 of them in universities. We have two lawyers, right,
mm.
who are beneficiaries. I'm like,
Wow.
we can't be doing the work that we have built the community, right? It's the community. The community needs to take ownership for that level, for that impact,
Mm,
for that conversation. We're not activists. We're not going to protest with you.
mm,
We are just enablers, right? And
mm,
and these guys individually, one of the architects, another is surveyor, they took their drones, they flew their drones. I mean, we provided some little financial support for them,
yeah.
but they took their drones, they created a survey. That was the survey that was used, this is off record in a way, but those were some of the materials that were used in the advocacy, in the conversation, right, with
Mm,
the State House, with the Lagos State House of Assembly, right, to really show data, not just emotions, not just protest.
mm,
They had a coalition of students and youths in the community who came together and mobilized and had those meetings with the stakeholders and eventually put a stop to the demolition using the facts and data. But, I say this because our role, right, should not be taking agency out of communities, should not be taking ownership for, what we do as individuals need to be owned by the community. I always say to my team that our North Star is to be obsolete, right? Our
Mm,
greatest goal as an organization is not to exist. I say we don't have a reason doing the work we do because it is, to a great extent, it is a disservice to all that there's so much we could be doing with our skills, with our education, with our talent, and trying to do the work that the government is expected to do,
mm,
right? And so today, a lot of the work we're doing is trying to ensure and try to see that we are creating the kinds of policies and advocating, you know, in the right circles, right, with
mm.
government to ensure that they take responsibility for the reform that the society is expected to have. Yeah, so I mean,
Awesome.
an overview of my story. I hope that that was as comprehensive
Uh,
as it could be.
yeah, honestly, I hope you've seen all the claps and
Thank
honestly,
you. Thank
it's
you.
just really a very inspiring story. I love when you said you wanted to heal people. And you started as you wanted to study medicine and then you changed eventually, but that sense of wanting to heal people, which then translated into healing systems, I think that is just so powerful. I want to thank your parents. I know your dad has gone to be with the Lord, but your mom for the support, the encouragement. Now I understand you. Why is Otto all over the world? Now I know that it's something that started from when you were very young. And I like the fact all the, amazing 700,000 students have been impacted, 60 or so in universities, 4,000 scholarships. Awesome, awesome. And I like the fact that you said you're not supposed to be obsolete, which means you do your bit, you empower the people. You're saying that agents, they should take the agency is with them so that you empower them. You're able to focus on creating structures, policy, conversations, infrastructure like the Green Academy. Can we quickly just hear about the Green Academy before just one or two more questions? And then, we can begin to wrap up. Green Academy, how did that come about? And that's
So
a huge.
yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much. So the Slum2School Green Academy was an initiative that we have had for years, right? We've had for years. And if you haven't seen the video, please, you could all just go online and Google. It's on my Instagram page. So if you follow me, I'm sure you could see it is one of the probably first 4 or 5 videos on the
Mm.
page. Um, we this was in a community in Ekpe, and we had visited that community in 2012. I had, in this adventurous life of mine, took a
Very.
traveled to Ekpe, took a boat. What are you going to, one of those days when we were traveling to the community, we we're telling ourselves, this is how those horror movies are. Because people will ask you, you left everywhere, decided to come to Ekpe and take a boat into a remote jungle. What are you going to look for here? If something goes wrong, but that was just how adventurous we
Mm,
were, right?
mm,
We had just an incredible group of young people who were so passionate. And I remember when we went into one of the communities called Emina, we saw that there was a public school that was abandoned. This school was built in 1975. And it got me thinking, if the government had built a public school in such a remote riverine community in 1975, can you imagine
mm.
how terrible our education system has had depreciated?
Yeah.
Because the school was abandoned, the flag in the school was torn and worn out. The
Mm.
community had said there hadn't been learning happening in that school for years. And so we
Wow.
said, this is a community with hundreds of children, neighboring communities as well, who are not in school. Let us renovate this school. That video is on YouTube. I'm going to try to see if I can find it as I'm
Mm.
speaking to you. And so we pulled ourselves together, and in in a weekend, we all went in to renovate this school. We camped in this community, right? And it was unbelievable just to think about how we had made such a decision. Because if something went wrong, how do we say, we decided to go into a community that we had no relationship with, to spend 4 days sleeping in a classroom renovating the
Wow.
school? But we did that, and after we had completed that renovation journey, we enrolled the kids and believed that learning was going to start. Unfortunately, after 1 year, the entire system collapsed. Teachers were not coming because these were supposed to be government teachers. Um, People came in and stole some of the chairs and a number of things, and it was so heartbreaking. And so what we had realized was that over 70% of the children came from a neighboring community. And so after 2 or 3 years, we started teaching those children in clusters of learning, what we call learning clusters. We
Mhm.
hired local teachers, provided school supplies, books, uniforms, and that was how for 7 years we taught in those huts.
Wow. 7 years.
Yeah,
Wow.
we never really put out any of that communication because that was not also our standard. We felt they
Mm.
deserved more, but we needed them to learn. And rather than just say there is no school, we needed to create something that we could serve. Anyway, eventually we built some stronger credibility, got partnerships, and built what today stands as a model of what an eco-friendly school should be. It's received several award nominations, several recognitions, and it's just less than 6 months after we had launched it. It's built with solar, with bamboo architecture. It's powered fully by solar power, solar energy. It harvests rainwater, purifies it through an integrated filtration system that powers the entire school and provides the wash system, clean water. The waste in the toilets in the school and in the staff quarters, because we had to build the staff quarters to bring in teachers from town,
Mm.
right? Who, in fact, the head of school was a teacher at Green Springs for 13 years.
Mm.
Right. So imagine the quality of teachers who are living in a community that is on the outskirts of Lagos.
Mm.
45 minutes boat ride from Ekpe into the community.
Ah.
So the waste from the toilets, the staff quarters, and the school is converted through a biodigesting system into cooking gas that is used in the staff quarters and and of course there are lots of biodiversity zones. We're currently creating like a greenhouse, we're creating a poultry, a farmyard for the children. And it's a school that I think every one of you should visit. So I'm
Ah.
sure if you follow me on Instagram, probably we're going to plan a visit in the coming months or weeks. But I think that it shows us how we need to rethink education, especially in Nigeria. But it's not just in the infrastructure, it's also in the
Absolutely.
curriculum, right?
Absolutely.
What does the curriculum look like? So we had to create an accelerated learning curriculum that fits in their local reality as well with what is the national standard. And we've seen learning outcomes in less than 5 months increase by over 25%. So a child who, I mean, we had a lot of children who were enrolled, who were coming into school for the very first time. Now, for them, learning probably has, I mean, not learning has increased significantly, but for the children who were already learning in the huts through the cluster learning system, we've seen significant learning outcomes
Mm.
improvement. So the point is to every one of us in the room is that we all have the opportunity, right? We all have the agency to move ourselves from a place of success to a place of significance. God has given us incredible potential.
Mm.
And the moment that potential would start to manifest is when you shift from success to significance. And you don't have to be successful yet. You just have to set significant goals. And success will
Beautiful.
just be part of that journey,
That's
right?
significant. I'm going
So,
to,
so
sorry.
what are some of the significant goals that you're setting for
Yeah.
yourself?
Yeah.
yourself, right?
Yeah.
There's no way you can be significant without being
Mm,
successful rather.
mm.
But you can be successful without being significant. So that's
Very important. I just absolutely love that. You know what I put? I said, Otto, you're just different. But we want more of you. You've said so many, and I love what you said now. So sometimes we're thinking we need to be successful first. What you're saying is, while you're working on being successful, you can have significant goals. Absolutely. More, things that are not just personal to you, things that
actually I
can
think
touch
I
lives.
I think it might even be the other way, right?
Hmm.
I always believe in having a North Star. I always tell my team, walk from the end in mind. Actually,
And
walk towards an answer. Have
I,
the answer, then start looking for the solution. So
I
what that
love that.
means is think of significance. I want to be significant.
Hmm.
What will significance look like to me? Forget about success because success is just going to be one of the milestones along the journey. In fact,
Yeah.
there are going to be multiple milestones of success, but
Yeah.
your end goal should be a level of significance, and you realize that success would just be a walk in the path.
That would be beautiful. When I'll be looking at significance from the point of view of purpose and that North Star on Wednesday. But the truth is, or let me take what the psychologist Maslow has said, no matter how much people sometimes want to think that way, there's just that thing that makes them think about today,
Mhm.
what am I going to eat? How do I
Correct.
feed my family? How do
Correct.
I pay my rent? You know? And that is why I love the fact that if we can just be, if after this week, what we're able to achieve is fine, let's pursue success, but have it at the back of your mind. It's not the destination. It's not where you stop. There's more. There's a
Mhm.
purpose. There's something that you're supposed to do beyond, your achievement and all that. I love, the impact you're making with the children. You said not only infrastructure, you're not focusing just on the infrastructure and the green school, but also the curriculum. I love the idea of the accelerated learning curriculum you're using and the impact is already making
Mhm.
improve students' learning outcomes. What honestly, it's on the in the chat, I've seen so many people say you are just you and your team because I know you always say that as well. So before I go on in the chat, I would like to see what is standing out for us thus far. So far, just put in the chat what anything that has actually stood out for you regarding what you've heard so far. And then we'll spend about 15 more minutes. Funlola says, passion, set significant goals while you're, trying to achieve whatever your goals are, but you also set significant goals. Impact first. Somebody says impact first. It would be lovely if one can do that. That's the ideal. Active milestones, no excuses. I love that. Set significant goals and success will be a part of it. Lovely. Making impact, intention and sacrifice, true dedication, resilience and selflessness. You can't be significant without success. Stay focused. Oh, lovely, lovely. Compassion. I love this. Sophistication. Use a wee lens. There's a difference between being an enabler and an activist. Lovely. Oh, we have a very attentive audience. I'm so proud of all the comments. And Otto, as we begin to round up, um, I know that, okay, just two things. You've said a lot. We can see your heart. And honestly, this really makes me get you a lot more in the fact that it's the way you're wired. And I honestly believe that. I believe that God wires us in certain ways because your story is not really that of, okay, I worked, I built this company, I achieved this success in the worldly sense of success, and now I moved to significance. You resigned from Zenith Bank and you went into this full time. So it's been a story of building, of maybe just helping individual children in Makoko to actually changing systems. And then the Green School, I think, is so inspirational. One question before I ask the final question, I call it the redemption question.
Mm.
It can't be also like hunky-dory and everything went well. Otto, we need to hear, were there times, was there any, have you ever experienced any kind of setback? Was there a turning point, as part of your story? Anything at all? If there isn't, but it just kind of makes you like I said, Otto is different. So tell us you're like a mortal like us as well.
Mm. I'm very mortal, though. Let me. I
Tell
am
us,
very mortal.
tell us.
Well, I mean, I struggle with this question, right? That
Mm,
I was in a class at Harvard, and
mm,
it was a 3 months class,
mhm.
and every week, in fact, twice a week, we will come in and just measure failures.
Mm.
I was frustrated. I was frustrated, right? It was a class, a leadership class, adaptive leadership,
Mm.
and by Professor Cauldron Heifetz. And it's one of the most talked about classes.
Tell me about it. Adaptive leadership. I'm sure Lynn is here. Please go ahead.
Yeah, and I was so frustrated because I'm like, how do we spend 3 months just discussing people's failures? So
Yeah.
yes, to the point, I I see failure as part of the journey, right? In
Mm.
fact, I don't see failure as failure. I see failure as a
Mm.
learning moment, along the journey. And every opportunity, in fact, I love to fail. And I have not sat
Mm.
down to really just point out to a situation and say this was a moment of failure, because I see it as a moment of learning.
Mm.
So I struggle with that question, right? To say this were moments that took a dip, right? Like, these were valleys along the journey. And to be very fair, I wouldn't really say I've had a very significant moment of failure.
Mm.
If God gives you a vision, He makes provision, and
Absolutely.
He knows what your needs are. You just need to be obedient and get into the road. Of
Mm.
course, have there been challenges? Yes, there's always going to be a challenge, even when you swallow a bar. It has to go through several hurdles.
Yeah.
And many times those challenges are economical challenges, socioeconomic challenges, communal challenges, financial challenges,
Mm.
cultural challenges. We go into communities. I mean, I've seen situations where some of our learners at the age of 15, a girl was so brilliant, but for some weird reason, she just gets married off. Some of
Wow.
these moments traumatize me.
Mm.
And I always ask myself, because this is not an individual loss. It's a systemic loss. This is a reality that affects the entire nation. There are communities where this is daily practice. And so the question that I have always spoken to in my team, as much as we engage with several partners who have expertise in these areas, I say we are here to win the war, not to win the battle.
Mm.
And so never find yourself trying to win a battle and lose the war. We want to see that we gather as much evidence, we gather as much data, we have as much stories, we have so much realities that when we get into the table to inform policy, there's enough data to show the wins and the losses. And so at several points, you realize that those learnings, God makes them happen because they're happening to improve your strategic implementation plan. I always also say to my team that everything that happens, no matter how terrible it is, it's happening for you, not
Mm.
happening to you.
Mm. Mm.
So you need to always look at the cup as half full. When something is happening, why is this happening? It's not
Mm.
happening to me. It's happening for me. So I need to look at the opportunities. What opportunities is this opening? And how is this really going to help us navigate the next phase of our journey? So we've experienced several challenges. But these are daily
Natural.
experiences,
Yeah. Yeah.
daily
Okay.
realities that help us grow, and we have grown.
Huh.
We have
Honest.
grown.
I
And
think this is just in line with the fact that um, you're an optimist. I love the fact that you don't see failure. It's immediately for you a moment of learning. So it's a worldview. It's how you see the world. And I think it's a beautiful one. It make you less stressed. No wonder you're always like on the you're not you are able to, process things and see the positive and the learning in each situation. Final question. Final question. I know that you have a legacy project. You started this, I think it's called Inked Memory
think memory, correct.
in memory. And I believe you founded it to preserve stories. And I know I hate to bring this up, but I remember when you lost your dad. I know it was a very tough period for you. And I think later on, at some point, you actually then, told me about this idea
Mm.
that you felt, and I know you're very passionate about it. And again, I want to discuss that because it also presents you in just another part of you. You're very much into
Yeah.
education, reform systems change and all that. But there's
Yeah.
this other part of you that I think is also phenomenal, this idea of ink
Yeah.
memory. Can you talk about that? And again, your video is off now. It's gone off.
Yeah. Give me a second. So
Okay, that's
I
great.
was trying to look
That's great.
for one of the boxes. So yes, and I'm going to share this as well. If you feel like you want to work with me in some personal capacity, please feel free to reach out because we're also building a team.
Yeah.
Um, and that this is for ink memory. And even for Slum2School, if you think you have a skill set that could be helpful, please also reach out. Now, I mean, Slum2School came from a place of pain.
Hmm.
It's from a place of pain and several things that I have found myself doing over the past years. Why is Africa so underrepresented? Why are most of our narratives very reactive? Why are most of our stories not really told? Why don't we have as much agency as we should? And I have told this story once or twice of a documentary I had watched called Welcome to Lagos. I think it's probably still on YouTube. What, probably about 16 years ago or 15 years ago, I watched that in my final year in the university, and I was so upset. Like, how do these people, how will BBC just come in and pick these seven horrible stories that underrepresents Nigeria? You say this is Welcome to Lagos. Anyway,
Hmm.
Makoko was one of them, and that was how I first heard about Makoko. And I was like, no, we need to change this.
Hmm.
But then, how do we control our narratives? How do we ensure that our children are learning about their history? How are we telling our story? You know, I speak about decolonizing our curriculum because our curriculum is really designed to program our minds in a way where we see foreign cities, foreign nations as superior to ours. A child who is 2 years old, 1 year old is already learning, London Bridge is falling down, the Queen of England, all of those beautiful fairy tales that we all learned, and it bothers me so much, so much. We complain about histories that we've lost, but we're not even preserving histories of today. So if I ask you on this call, wherever is, all of you, if I ask you, what's your dad's favorite color? Where did he meet his mom? What was his grandfather's occupation? How did his grandmother die? Right? What is a genetic illness that is across 5 generations? right? We don't even know our own history. We don't even know our own family tree beyond
Mm.
your immediate family, like to the next and the next. And so in 2021, I started having this conversation with my dad. And I had this idea of really preserving his story. So I gave him the first draft of this journal that I believed was going to really help preserve his story. And he said I was going to fill it. 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. Bottom line was throughout the first year, 2022, he didn't fill it. 2023, I'm like, okay, we have a lot of time. Take your time. And 2023, he also did not fill it. And so when we were together during the holidays, I was like, Dad, why haven't you started filling this journal? And he says that he's still thinking about it. But then 2024 January, I was like, no problem, we have enough time. And he fell ill sometime around the end of February. And on February 6th, 2024, I woke up to a call that my dad had died. And that was one of the most traumatic calls that I had ever had. 6 a.m. in the morning, actually 5:45 a.m. in the morning, my mom had called. And it was such a sad moment. I could not even remember the journal, but in my head, I'm really like, wow. So I never had the opportunity to really sit down with dad and go through that journal. But to cut that long story short, I traveled home, cried as much as I could cry, and eventually saw the
Mm.
journal. Actually, I didn't see the journal. I saw my younger brother had called and says, that journal you gave to dad, we're cleaning his room, right? And we just saw it on the shelf, or we saw a book wrapped on a shelf, and we would love. I mean, I opened it, and guess what? Dad had filled it.
Beautiful.
He had filled it up, over 200 answers. Like, how could this man really sit down and fill this journal under what could have been 4 weeks or 3 weeks or 2 weeks or whatever it could be? But I could remember that the calls I was having with him over the last weeks before he died were just conversations that he was feeding into this journal. And that became like the greatest treasure that
Mm.
for not just me, every one of us. And so I said this was not going to be a gift for just me alone. And it birthed Ink Memory. And eventually we created this boxes,
Mm.
right?
Mm. Beautiful.
Um, that has two journals. I mean, so we have different boxes. It comes with a fountain pen. And it has a journal that's Dear Daddy, let's preserve your memories. 360 questions in it. And just a gift for every family, you know. I mean, I've had hundreds of people make requests for it since we had launched last year. We have a ton of people but we have not really gone into the market, which is why I'm like, if you have expertise in really if you want to walk, you want to get on the team. But I think it's for every father. We have a version for mothers. It's for every mother. You want
I
to
was going to
preserve these
ask
stories.
that how about
Um,
the one for
so we have
moms?
sure. Mother's Day is in about a month from now, so mothers deserve to get copies as well. But I think beyond this product, there's several other products that would help us really preserve our stories and help Africans in general, right? Understand that 200 years from now, our history did not begin with the visitors who came. It
Mm.
started centuries ago. I was in Egypt last few weeks, and these guys were telling me history of 4,500 years ago.
Mm.
4,500 years ago,
Wow.
walking into the pyramids and going up and seeing how they've preserved their history. I was in China as well last year, and the history was 5,000 years, 6,000 years. I'm like, even the Bible says 2,000 years. So what is going on here?
Before
Right?
Christ.
And so we learned in school, a lot of our history begins from a place of pain, right? Not a place of power, not a place of agency. We need to start teaching children that we had cities that were more advanced than the European cities as way back as the 16th, the 12th, the 5th centuries. And we need to go and unpack those stories. There's
Mm.
so much we could speak about, right? There's so much we could speak about. There's just so much history that we have not preserved and documented. We tell it as though it is just it's like
Folklore.
narrative. But
Yeah.
if you don't help us know that our ancestors were powerful, they were not enslaved, right? If we don't have that level of agency, we would all wake up and aspire to travel and go to foreign lands. And that's why today one of the greatest measures of success is who travels out of the country to go somewhere else. That's a failed system, right?
Mm.
That's a failing country. We need to reverse that psychology and start helping children understand that success locally really should be the North Star of success, right? Significance locally,
Yeah.
significant. And we don't have to be celebrated outside the country before you're celebrated in your country. We see this happening so much, and I could give so many personal stories as well. A lot
I,
of personal stories, but I think that this kind of answers the question.
Thank you so much. You've touched, I'm sure, many, many hearts right now. I could see a lot of claps, and comments, that we need Africans to tell the African story. When we talk about it, as well, that decolonizing our curriculum, how do we provide solutions by Africans for Africans? How do we get our children to connect to this continent and to be proud of who they are? And there are so many people working in this space right now, trying to ensure that we don't lose our children, where success is not I've relocated, to this place or that place. I am so
And
have
just to put a
yeah.
caveat on that,
Yes, yes.
I'm not against relocation. In fact,
Oh,
I
yeah, yeah,
believe
yeah.
I believe that our greatest contribution to the global ecosystem would be human capital. I mean,
Mhm,
as Africans, as Nigerians, right? We talk about demographic dividend, and I did give the convocation lecture at the University of Lagos. So if you haven't watched it, I think it's on YouTube. Please do watch it. But I speak about demographic dividend from a place of power. I mean, our greatest resources would not be our mineral resources, our natural
mhm,
resources, but our human resource. If
mhm,
we are, if we are, if we are as a nation, right, or even as a continent, projected to double our population in less than 25 years, less than one generation. We need to realize that that is the greatest human
mhm,
capital that the
mhm,
world will ever see. That's the greatest potential. And
mhm,
so our goal, if we are being very strategic, and this is why I have an issue with the current system of governance, which we would not be speaking to today. But we can't have a system that encourages short-term thinking, where
mm,
every 4 years you're recycling the same political manifesto
mm,
and the same
mm,
campaign promises. You can't think long-term. You look at nations that have succeeded, they've created 30, 40, 50 years agenda and
mhm,
worked on it consistently without changing it after 5 or 10 or 15 years. We
mm.
can't operate with a system that, and again, it's a different conversation, right? Is this designed for us to remain in a state of stability or survival? But we need to evolve into a place of sovereignty, a place of sophistication, a place of supremacy, and systems would define that shift. And so it's important for us to understand that our human capital would be our greatest assets. And if there's anything we're going to contribute, it's contributing talents to the world.
Yeah.
The the demographic dividend across Europe and America is falling, right? And what does that mean? The productive years of the population, right? People who are between the ages of 16 and 65. It's shrinking. And
Mm,
so their, their human capital is gradually being eroded. And what's going to happen? We need to fill that gap. So Africans really will have to fill in that gap. It
mm,
doesn't have to happen when our bests are leaving. We need to be intentional to know that we need talent circulation, brain circulation, not just brain drain.
Drained.
We need to circulate talent. We need to circulate human capital. We need to contribute. In fact, countries need to pay for our human capital.
Hmm.
That's a different conversation, which we're not going to
Right.
go. But the way you I don't want this to be
Because
controversial.
I still need to take questions.
Yeah, but the way you get a
Yeah.
player to come play for a club, right?
Yeah.
You should
Yeah.
our doctors should be paid for. You can't have a youth who spends 25 years investment by a nation and you just give them a visa and extract that talent. That is exploitation. That's the
Mm,
greatest form of enslavement that we are
mm,
dealing
mm,
with today,
mm,
right? And we
mm.
see this across talents. Even in education today, our teachers are being extracted,
Yeah.
right? So when you take the best of us to go to other countries who have received the greatest form of investment through subsidized education, that is not equity. That is
Mm,
injustice, right?
mm.
And that's the neo-colonial system that we are dealing with on a global scale.
Awesome. Otto, if I'm sure that we could go on for another hour and I can see your passion. And for me, I just, even with the relocation and all that, I would say just be led. You don't make sure that you go where you know that is in line with your North Star. That's mine, you know. So I don't believe that one shouldn't. But also you have said so much about that exploitation of our knowledge. You know, we have so much. People go, and then at the end of the day, how are we treated? How, you know, is it appreciated?
I mean,
What
we also have a responsibility, right?
of
We
course
also
to
have a
decide,
responsibility. And
yeah, yeah,
again, I say this from a place of, you know, we have a systemic leadership challenge because if we are not having leaders who are thinking 50 years,
yeah.
30 years, 100 years, we would not see these issues. You don't see education reform in the sense of an education reform campaign promise because education reform and education results don't happen in 5 years. It doesn't happen in 4 years, right? But that is really where reform should begin with. This is not, it's, you know, I say education should be our greatest infrastructural project,
Yeah.
right? And so if we're thinking long term, we will understand that it is also I wouldn't want to use the word failure, right? But in a large context, it's failure of taking ownership and maximizing the talents that we have locally that make them eventually leave. And so it's
I,
exploitation.
yeah. Yes. Go on.
Yeah,
Exploitation.
it's exploitation in the generic sense,
Yeah.
right? But it's a failure of leadership on our part as leaders locally that has given access to that ongoing exploitation.
No, but one thing I'm also thinking about is the way the world is going anyway. The fact that every country is saying, you know what, go back, don't stay. I think it's going to actually eventually help us because really that's what's happening now. It's almost like most countries are like, no, you know, enough. And
I agree with you, but you see, there's something that they are
And
doing.
also, so we're going to continue this conversation, but I just see that that is really because most of our children they want to, it's really sad what is going on right now. Even to get the visa to go and study, it's getting more and more difficult.
As
Do you
we
think
speak, as
as
we
we,
speak,
yeah.
visas are being approved. The best of us. If you have a talent, you know what countries are doing right now are creating bottlenecks so that the best of us would leave,
But
right?
I know personally, I don't want to mention any country, but I know personally students that have been in university to even
Yeah,
go back to finish the program, they're being denied.
it's a
Very
phase.
traumatic. I know
It's a
I'm
season.
talking about
It's a
real
season.
cases here.
Correct. Correct.
Anyway, that's the discussion for another day. So, Otto, I just want to thank you so much. You've reminded us that success is a doorway to impact. You have been able to show us how you have navigated, honestly, from when you were very young and how you've been able to build a community of like-minded people. And I see you with, Slum2School, the people that your team and the people that are around you. You've been able to inspire, you've been able to build this community of young people who are change makers, who want to change systems. And honestly, I don't even have the words to say how much I love your story and respect you for what you are doing. Now, before we leave, a lot of people have asked for your email. So if you can please put your email or how they can connect with you
On
in the.
my social media pages, Instagram, I wouldn't want to put in something that becomes
Okay.
misspelled, but it's otto.orandam@gmail.com. It's also on my social media pages, Instagram and the rest of them. So
Right.
very, very
Okay.
simple.
Can you repeat that just in case people
OTTO.ORONDAAM
at Gmail? Okay.
@gmail.com or at
Orondaam at Gmail.
slum2school.org,
Okay.
wherever.
All right. So then we would only be able to take two questions because we really did not want to spend more than 1.5 hours. So we're going to yes, it's about that time. So I think two people, Nene has her hand up,
Okay.
and just one more person. Nene, can you please go ahead? And then we'll take just one more apart from her. Nene Akiton, please. Could you go on and ask your question?
Okay, thank you. I was just saying that I was muted. Thank you so much, Otto, for sharing your perspective. And thank you, Dr. Nwani, for providing this forum. What you're doing is truly admirable, I must say. And I wish a lot more of us would do that. I want to talk a little bit. My question is a little bit around the when you talked about brain drain. It seems a little oversimplistic because I am a Jakpada person. I Jakpad and I've Jakpada back.
Okay, I like
And,
that.
and the reason I wanted to ask you a question about brain drain, don't you see that brain drain is as a result of the systemic challenges in our society versus colonial, I think you called it slavery, something about slavery and taking advantage of because my husband and I were left. My husband is a physician. He's still there. I'm here back and forth. But he left because the system didn't work and his father died because the system didn't work. So it
Yeah.
wasn't just go, So I wanted to ask you that question so you can throw more, if you can throw more light. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, these are not mutually exclusive realities, and two rights can exist as well. So to your simple question, simple answer, yes, it's largely
Yeah.
due to a broken system, right? And which was why when I shared the framework initially, I asked, where are we, right? If you look on that, I mean, we don't have the time, but if I could show you countries that are within the middle upper part of that chart where you're seeing sovereignty, sophistication, supremacy. They're not leaving due to survival or due to opportunities. They are leaving for contribution, right? So our system has contributed. But let me ask you a question, right? What if it's intentional to keep the system this way for that exploitation to continue? Right? And this is a very, very rhetorical question that I want us to sleep on as we are also blaming our leaders, because I want to believe that our leaders have a huge responsibility. But what if there are also several actors that are contributing structurally to the sustenance of this broken system, because that exploitation needs to be inevitable, right? If we go back to see how the transatlantic slave trade happened, the patterns are not so different, right? And what we're seeing right now, even though I wouldn't want to clearly define it, is not so different, because when you have a system that is broken, people would need to escape, and we will escape the best of the best who can actually afford to leave. And when that happens, it benefits those and communities where they're leaving to. So I think it's important for us to reflect, right, on systems. How can we fix the system? It's not just about a president. It's not just about, a political party, because that is part of the system. right? I'm not so excited today seeing the chaos we have. What happened if we all, what would be wrong if we could all come together rather than having opposition and opposing interests that are constantly working to see the failure of the other party. That is not how great systems have worked over the years. I mean, if we go back down, down history lane. And so we need to realize that our our loss, right, is a gain
Gain.
for certain actors. Our inaction is also due to certain actions of certain actors. And we need to start thinking systemic. What can we do to really reform the socioeconomic, the education, the national systems that we are enforcing and we are upholding? So to your question, it is obvious that a broken system can't really be fixed. It needs in some instances it needs to be changed, right? If you have a broken glass, you could join it together, but it's still going to be broken,
So,
right?
okay.
How do we change that system that ensures? Yeah, please go ahead.
No, please round up and then I would just because I'm
Yeah,
feeling
I mean, she's responded. She
it's
says it's
responded.
giving her the opportunity. No, I mean, she's responded saying she has
Okay.
something to ponder on. I
And I
think
think,
that is the objective.
yes.
Let's
And I see a
just
lot of
think.
comments here. Some people say, I think going into the relocation thing, some people have said some professionals, some people just want a better life and not necessarily because of monetary reasons. Some people just could not cope with the broken system here. And sometimes and that's
No,
why
but
I think it's,
we need to know, Dr. Wine, I don't want to be misquoted, right? We need to know that
yes,
people have the liberty, right?
absolutely,
And that is success. That is what success
absolutely,
is. But I think
absolutely,
the essence of this conversation and why it came up is because we are talking
yeah,
about significance. We are talking about our
yes,
nation as a whole, right?
yeah,
If
yeah,
we want to transform our nation, we need to think beyond that level of success, right?
mm.
Success to me, I went to Harvard, I who knows, I might still jump out tomorrow. But I went to Harvard. I decided, no, I don't want to stay back in the United
Yeah.
States. I need to come back home and see how to contribute,
To
right?
be honest,
And that's that level of sacrifice comes with certain prizes and certain losses,
okay.
right? But again, we need to realize that everyone who has commented is right. The
Hmm.
broken system is just an enabler. It's
Yeah,
a validation to the need for that extraction, that export of
yeah,
talents. And the question to reflect on is that intentional?
right. Okay. Is it intentional? Is it something that, is happening? I would say the way I look at it is purpose, Otto, purpose. Because some of us might actually be called to do some things outside Nigeria and it's going to be significant.
And that is all right too.
That's
That is
all right
all
too.
right.
You
But that is
understand?
not
So,
happening
but
today. It's not
yeah,
happening. The majority of that, and we can all attest to it, that the
yes,
majority is happening because of a broken system.
system.
So
Oh
people are
yeah.
leaving for survival. People are
Mhm.
not leaving for supremacy.
Mm,
You as an individual, and that's why I used that framework in the beginning. If
yeah,
you're leaving for supremacy, it means that your resource, I mean, how many percent of Nigerians are leaving for sovereignty, for sophistication? I am
yeah,
the best data engineer in my country, and right now I'm going to help China or help America or help you know the UK to
mm,
reform their data or their bioengineering departments or systems, right? So if the majority of us are living for survival or
yeah.
for stability,
But
then
look,
there's an issue at
yeah.
home, and that's
Oh,
where that change.
thank you so much, Kerry. I'm not sure we can. It's the night is fast spent. Kerry, do you must? Is it something that's very short and you have to say? Because we really have to round up now. Honestly, it's just been so, so interesting. Carry your hand is up. All right, Otto. Okay, you don't have to. And please send us questions. We will make sure at the end of each day Whatever questions we're not able to get to, I will send to the speaker and they would reply. And whatever relates to me as well, I promise to reply. So time is first when Otto, how can I thank you? Thank you so, so much. My mindset has shifted. That's what we set out to do. What an impactful session today. Thank you so much, Otto. Tomorrow, we're having another awesome guest. Her name is Audrey Jo Ezigbo. A lot of us know Audrey. Audrey is the CEO of Falcon Corporation, which is a leading wholly indigenous midstream and downstream energy gas distribution and trading company. She co-founded Falcon in 1994, propelling it into a key player in the gas industry. Audrey is also the managing director, CEO of Optimera Energy LFZE, an SPV focused on gas infrastructure build-out, gas distribution, and energy optimization within Nigeria. Now, of course, her CV goes on and on. What I will do each day is to put the bio and the profile of my guest in the chat so you can read. What I love about the way Audrey will approach this topic tomorrow is she's going to take us from how she achieved all this. Because as we have said, success is still very important. It gives you credibility. It gives you a platform. But from that platform, Audrey has been able to expand into significance. She would also share some of her lived experiences. She would share even some challenges that she probably, encountered along the way that might also have added to that change of mindset from just success to significance. She has a book, and she will tell you in her book, she shares some of her testimonies, how the Lord healed her, and all that. So it's going to be beautiful, relatable, and I think it's just going to be an awesome time tomorrow, how that internal change happens, where we're looking at expanding on just the successes to becoming more significant. Thank you all very much, everyone that's been here even till the very end. Thank you so much. I'm so looking forward to the remaining 4 days. Audrey will take tomorrow. On Wednesday, I will take this from the point of view of purpose. You can see I kept talking about purposes. I will look at how significance is linked to who you are and how you were wired. There is no other way to achieve significance if you are not connected to purpose. And then on Thursday, we will look at it from the point of view of succession planning. How do you build significance, ensuring that what you have built, you have been able to hand over to another group or set of people. And then on Friday, we talk about generational wealth as well. So looking forward to seeing you all tomorrow, 5 p.m. West African time. God bless you all. Bye. Bye, everyone. Bye. Bye. And yes. Yes, and yes, you can also, I have all my social media handles there, so you can continue to have access to, information and all that you need. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay. Take care,
What time
everybody.
tomorrow?
Wish you the
5
best.
p.m. Otto, thank you
Bye,
once
Dr.
again. I wasn't
Nwani.
sure you were still there. Thank you so much, Otto. Just an
Thank you very much as
amazing
well.
time. Amazing. I knew it was going to be anyway. Thank you so much. You're
Bye for
such
now.
a special one. Well done. Proud of you. All right. All right. Egbombi, I can see you there. Gigi, can you please put my social media handle? Somebody is asking. Once again, put it there. Yes.